Alright, so we're over at the surface plate over here, and this is the bottom portion of the cross slide, and I'm just measuring both sides of the dovetail, these lower parts, just to ensure that there's parallelism between these two. Or I guess they're in the same plane rather. Got this deburred. I think it's reasonably flat. To start with, so that's good. Got this half thou indicator here, and so we can kind of go a couple behind the 5. I'm not going to mess with this. I don't have a proper surface gauge, but as we span across this, you can kind of see it's within I don't know, like 2 of those tick marks. So what is that, a thousandth across its surface? And this is some sort of supposed scraping from the factory in China. I don't know if it's just for aesthetics, but anyway, we got the other side, and you can see it's about 2.5 thousandths higher on this side. So it looks pretty good as far as this portion all being on the same plane. But let's go ahead and check the other side again. It's about 2 thousandths lower on this far end. This is the end closer to the center line of the lathe. If it were the other side, I would be like, oh, okay, yeah, the cutting forces, it's going to flex a little bit. The extra height is going to make it cut more on center. But this is sort of the inverse of what you'd imagine. So what I'm going to attempt to do, as I don't have a surface grinder, is just go ahead and try to scrape this other side in and slowly remove material from this side. And then I know at that point that we'll have a good base to go from, and then we can do the rest of the cross slide. My goal is to ultimately get a one reference surface over on this far end here. This is sort of like a cross slide upper from Little Machine Shop that has some T-slots in here. Thought it was kind of cool. It's a bit thicker than the standard cross slide upper that you get stock on these. So hopefully that does something for rigidity. Alright, so we have migrated over to the vise. It's a little bit high, but I'm going to attempt to use the scraper to go along and get a roughing pass. And this is the high side here. So I'm going to take a little more material off this side to begin with, since I know we need to bring it all down this way. Scraper that I have here is this thing here. It's about just the Amazon special. I think it's a German company. But it's about from the handle to the tip, end of the handle to the end is 17 inches. See how it goes. Alright, so here we are after one round of passes. I guess I did a blanket pass this way, then perpendicular to it, I guess is how people recommend doing it. And then I did that same thing, just on 1/2. So I guess it's kind of like 1.5 passes. But I'm going to stone it, take it to the surface plate, and see what the difference is, if it's even detectable. I guess it's also, this is kind of a weird way to go about taking out a little bit of tilt in a part, I guess. Scraping is for flatness. But I don't know. I want to get some practice. And this is the bottom part. No one's going to be looking at this, so if it looks bad, which it kind of does, I'm getting my practice rounds in. But yeah, we'll do some rock tests. I don't quite have any dicom on the surface plate right now, but once we get to that point, we'll start actually looking for flatness in a more legitimate way. Alright, so not really a noticeable difference at the surface plate. I think I'm going to be a little more aggressive and take several passes on this side, stone it, and repeat. Okay, so after a couple rounds here, I can see that the material removal rate is very low, so I'm going to try to speed this up by using a file, big ass file. This is my small milling machine, let's call it. But just on this 1/2 to remove that bulk of the material. Take it back to the surface plate, try not to roll it over, and once I see that I'm closer to the mark, then we can come back to scraping. Alright, so as you may be able to see from the tool marks here, I've gone over with the file, left this edge untouched since that is the low edge. From stoning, you can kind of see this center area is really the area with the best contact. The edges inevitably got a little bit rolled over by the file. But now when we do a comparison, see if we can zoom in and see that dial face a little better. There we go. We're zeroed out on this side, and we'll just sweep it across, see what it does without falling off. So it looks like it's about a 1/4 thou. Okay, and then about a 1/2 thou deviation. But we're pretty close to 0. Maybe about a 1/2 thou max below it. And then on this side, we're at a similar area on the dial. Maybe 1/4 thou, 1/2 thou. This side right here in the center dips a little bit, but then we come back closer to 0 over here. So I would say these two sides are at a similar height now, and now would be an appropriate time to pick up scraping. Alright guys, so an important part of scraping, as some of you may know, is bluing ink. So this is from Dykem. It's different than the stuff that you use for laying out, right? It's to detect high spots on these parts so that you can scrape them down. I've got a roller to apply it. You want it to be pretty light. I've never done it before, so we're just going to try it out. Seems like, you know, I'm very susceptible to observer bias, I've noticed, from having watched so much YouTube and stuff. That's where I've learned all of the machining things I know, really. Most of them. It seems like people get a little bit of paint going on the side, and maybe that's too little. Maybe I'll put a little bit more. They get a little bit going on the side. They get it nicely applied to the roller in that area. Taking some care to clean this as well. And we'll just kind of try to, this will freaking roll. Try to spread this out a little bit in a way that will make for a nice impression for our high spots. And I guess there's some yellow stuff that can accompany this, that some of the people who are more experienced with scraping might use to see the low spots, I guess. A little more contrast. But, yeah. Okay, so that's pretty dang thin. Kind of spread it out just from that little bit. It's gone really far. It's still pretty concentrated over here, so we can kind of wet it later on. But stone this, done another roughing pass with the scraping. Please don't laugh. And I know it's awful. And you can kind of see how slow the material removal rate for scraping is. You can kind of see all these scoring marks from the file. You know. Anyway, so we're just going to put it on here. Just kind of give it a wiggle. Try not to rock it or whatever, if there's any rock in it. And we'll tilt it up and lift it away. Here's what we got. It's pretty awful. It's just this little itty bit in the center, and that makes sense. There's a bit of rock in this before I tried it out, and when I stoned the part, this was the area that got hit the most by the stone. But now begins the slow process of hitting these high spots with the scraper, and wash, rinse, repeat. Alright, so this is probably going to be like the 6th or 7th pass. And we can't do a video about scraping without showing any scraping. So, despite my novice expertise level, I'm gonna try to do this on camera. This cutting tool here is carbide, I believe. It's getting a little blunt. It's about 1 a.m. right now, so I don't think it's really a good time to bust out the bench grinder. So we're just going to make do. But yeah, here we go. It's kind of hard to be deliberate right now about these little blue spots that I'm trying to get right. Whereas before with the sort of blanket passes, from the initial couple passes, we're kind of indiscriminate, and this is a little more focused. So yeah, I'm just kind of trying to knock down each of these little blue spots. Okay, so that's a little looking a little better. So I will rotate it 90 degrees. Let's see if we can just open the vise without hitting the camera stand. A little bit more. Alright, and then we'll go do another pass perpendicular to the previous, and try to remove the remaining spots. So I'm not really an ambidextrous person, but I can't really tell which way of holding this scraper is better for me, whether having the sharp edge closer in my left hand or vice versa. Both of them feel equally as awkward. I'm right-handed, but if any of you guys know if there's like a traditional way to hold it for right-handed people, please let me know. Alright, so those are the majority of the spots. We're going to stone it down and check it at the surface plate, and I'll show that process. Alright, so got a Norton stone over here. Just going to get a little bit of oil on this. It's an oil stone. Works a lot better when you use oil, I found out after a couple weeks. but just trying to apply even pressure to this, do some little infinity signs. Just knock off the burrs. And then we'll clean off that wheel real quick. Okay, back at the surface plate. Redistribute some of this ink, dicum, whatever you want to call it. And we'll place down our part. Give it a little swivel. Looks like the pivot point's about here. I'll do it over here. And over here it's a little closer to the center. I guess ideally you want it to be sort of a third of the way from the edge, pivoting at 2 points when you pick it up from either end. That's sort of the way a flat part should pivot, and this one's a little towards the center, which is kind of makes sense based on this right here. We see mostly have coverage in the center.
3 hours later.
Okay, everyone, I've done quite a few passes. I don't even know how many. I guess probably about 20 or something. Contact was pretty good. I feel like I was just kind of chasing the holes around. I'm not really getting better coverage. Anyway, back at the surface plate to measure. So let's see, our aim, right, was to get these two sides at the same height and get this to be flat. So do a little bit of tapping. I don't feel any rock in this part. It's definitely flat now. It already was, but it was these two halves weren't on the same height. So let's check it out now. This dial test indicator, half thou. Just kind of sweep across, and it's proofs in the pudding. Smack dab on 0 pretty much. I'll go to the other side. I'll check that out. Oop, fell off. Do it again. And so that's really good too. Only took about 3 hours of scraping. Perhaps an overuse injury, but I think I learned some stuff. Yeah. So part of the reason why I wanted to scrape this bottom piece in the first place was to have a good foundation point, have these two be on the same height, obviously, but what I haven't really talked about that much is having this portion right here be a reliable reference surface. So the reason why I want that is because the graduated dial here, or the graduated thing for the angles here on that come standard on most mini lathes, kind of sucks. Even this little tick mark here is crooked. It's like, don't really know what to believe. Like for applications like in the Benchmaster project that you guys may have seen that I've uploaded is had to cut a Morris 2 taper, and I ended up doing that really bad on here. I wasn't doing it based on the angles here. I copied a center here, so there were other things that caused some error. But hopefully, if this reference surface here is reliable and parallel to the axis of movement of the cross slide, then maybe I can use something like sign blocks along with sign blocks referencing this cross slide, right? To accurately make angles, maybe so you can be more precise and feed the compound slide at a steeper angle and achieve some more precision that way. So I don't know, just the beginning of something.